Give it a second here. It'd be cool. All right. Looks like we're live on Facebook.
Cool.
And we'll try YouTube. See if we're there. View the channel. It looks like we're live on YouTube too. And we're starting to get people loading in here. We got Kyle and Jordan and Justin. Some new names, some new people. It's good to see
Cool.
some new faces or some new black boxes with no faces. It is it's nice if you're able to throw your camera on, then at least we see it's not a bot that's just on there. But yeah, we got
Hey,
a handful of
Jordan.
people over on um, Facebook as well. Throw something in the comments. Make sure you can hear us and everything's working in Facebook too. Go into the chat there for a second. What's new with you, David?
Well, we've had an extremely busy week, and I always say, hey, if we're busy, that means somebody out there is getting busy. It just seems to me that we keep pretty good records around here, and everything seems to be getting back to normal. So I know I get mixed. It depends on where you're at, but I do get mixed reviews. I keep encouraging people until they get sick of hearing me. Please keep trying to work after the concerned citizen because the real estate market will make your business fluctuate. The concerned citizen market will make up for it every time. And I'm the example. I built my business away from the real estate industry and never went through fluctuations. Always had consistency due to the fact that the concerned citizen market uh, always seems to be a lot more regulated than the real estate market. So that's what I got to say. We had a very busy week. I somewhat jokingly say, but before we started the whole process of having these things on Friday afternoon, uh, Ben had sat down and had a talk with me about what I had to say and not making it not making some of the things that bother me about this industry. But I said, well, I can have one comment every week, and I also have a feature item of the week based on conversations I've had with consumer or with customers. Most of you know that every customer I have has my cell phone number, so we're certainly in touch. And the the item of the week is manometers, I think. But we've been talking about the new access port and how there's three states that are requiring an access port. Actually, the national rule requires an access port now, but three of the states seemingly went further. I know Illinois is saying, hey, if it's going to be an access port, let's not have a bunch of caulk and screws and gizmos to hold it down because that's not accessible, so to speak. I wouldn't look at my own sump if I had to get a screwdriver and a caulk gun to do it. But so I think there's three states that's making it a toolless, caulkless access port. And I feature this enough that everybody's seen it, but this is simply done with a gasket, the correct size hole, and it just pops in and pops out. And I've used these for 25 years, and great sales item. That's one of the reasons I did well in the concerned citizen market because things like that. I certainly wouldn't go into a bid without one of them under my armpit. But it's always been the caulkless, screwless. It always bothered me that I had competition when we had the rule in Illinois that looked like they used a piece of saran wrap and a half a tube of caulk, and I'm like, that's not an access port. But anyway, this now that we've created a sticker for, I think you can read the sticker. It says remove for inspection, reinstall after use. I think that's a valuable thing because whether if you have one of your customers has a sump emergency at midnight, that's when it always happens. Um, the neighbor, the plumber, or them It's not going to hurt to look at see what's going on down there. And I've had plumbers call me up before, not to get repetitive, and say, "Hey, I opened up that access port, you call it. I stuck my pipe wrench down in there and I tapped on the top of that sump pump and I was able to break the points loose, break the switch loose, and that switch allowed that sump to go back to working. So I created I had an emergency situation that I was able to create a non-emergency situation. So I still changed the sump out, of course, but it no longer was an emergency situation after I let it run a half hour. So anyway, that new item, we made a new access port that's less money, and I'm really proud of the fact that we come up with a label for the top of it, so it makes it very understandable for plumbers and consumers to identify it. So item of the week is manometers. Most of you know we started making manometers 8.5 years ago. It's my baby. Proud of the fact that in 8.5 years we've never raised a price. They're still $7 for bulk, $7.50 for each. They still come in 3 colors. I think I have the only manometer out there that will go clear up to 6 inches of water column. That's my standard manometer. It's not any extra money to get one that will do 6 inches, and some of today's fans will go 5. So we came prepared as we made them. We made all 3 colors, so that there was no question about that. But one of the things we're proud of is our package of labels and identification. This should meet this is your consumer guide. This meets every state's requirements for stickers, labels, and guides. And so anyway, that's my baby. 8.5 years, the same price. I hope I can continue to say that, but
David, how many do you have to order to get the bulk price?
50.
50.
There's 50
Gotcha.
in a box. $7 if you buy 50. Good question. $7.50 if you buy less than 50.
Hey, David, I got a complaint about that.
Uh-oh. Go ahead.
Hold on, let me turn off the streaming and recording.
I'm not used to complaints.
Those stickers are so nifty. I just can't stand it that I can't use every one of them.
Isn't that crazy?
It really goes against my OCD personality to put some of the stickers away without sticking them on something. They're really good.
And it's funny, guys that are just getting into the business, we have the ability to buy the stickers by themselves. And inevitably, I tell new guys, now call me for your first order and let's talk it over together. Because there's things I'm going to encourage you to buy and there's things I'm going to encourage you not to buy. But inevitably, Ron, everyone says, well, I think I ought to have a couple packages of those stickers. And I say, no, cross them off. Trust me, you'll have enough extra stickers in a month's time that you will regret buying a couple packages if you do. So that's kind of a funny comment. And
hey, that coffee shop over by me, when you drive by, when you get your coffee, everybody puts their band stickers and the other. So that's what you need to do, Ron. Find a spot like that every time you get a cup of coffee, you add a radon reduction system to the pole next to it or something like that.
Yeah, there's all kinds of ideas you can do. I want to turn this meeting over to Ben, but I've got to have my one comment of the week that I can critique the organization for, the one that Ben warned me about being negative. But the latest thing is I was sitting in on the meeting with the people from Illinois to help fine tune the new contract that they're working on and to make suggestions and small changes. They're about down to the end of it. But one of the new things is many states, including Illinois, is required to put a passive skeletal radon system in during construction. All right, we've been doing it. Illinois started that in 2008, first state to do it. So every home being built in Illinois has the passive pipes in it supposedly for the mitigator to work from. That's another story for another day. But here's the latest. In my part of the country, and Ron, you got to listen. You guys from Canada and Alaska are going to appreciate this, but you got to listen to this. The latest thing is we've got insulation companies in my area, I've spoke with them. The spray foam's becoming more and more popular, and there's a new concept of spraying the underside of the roof, instead of the ceiling joist of the top floor, they're spraying the underside of the roof, therefore making that conditioned space. And the insulation companies are saying that this is a superior product, that this concept is going to catch on and stay. Well, here's the funny thing. You can't put a fan in a conditioned space, not in the lower states. Now, you might be able to do that in Canada and Alaska, but you can't put a fan in a conditioned space. Now it's getting real popular to make attics conditioned spaces, and all you got to do to make it a conditioned space is the insulation people make that determination along with the builder or whomever by spraying the underside of the roof. Now you've created a conditioned space. So now the builder, plumber, is required to put a passive radon stack in that's unusable. So the way they make it usable, you'll love this, Ron. So now the way to make it usable is they're saying, well, there has to be a chase built. So in the attic space, that pipe has to be in a airtight chase. And, building a chase around it's one thing, but that chase has to be vented to the outdoor air, whether it be through the roof or the end wall, with something similar to a dryer exhaust vent. So the chase has to be vented. The chase has to be semi-air proof, air resistant. And you have to then have a hatch to it that has to have a gasket on it, because you got to get a fan and electrical in there if it needs activated. So I'm in this meeting and I say, wait a minute, who builds this chase? Oh, well, now the builders will build that. And I'm like, I'm going to tell you guys in this meeting something. I grew up in the building industry, and those builders already dislike us, but we've made a lot of progress getting the builders to accept us. But if you think the builders are going to build this, I think you guys are dreaming. It ain't going to happen. And if you do make the builders build it, we start back at ground zero and we're all hated again. But anyway, I had to tell this story. And so I tried to think of some kind of a positive to go with it. And I think if there's a positive to go with it, that's got to be some pretty big ammunition to get the people in the radon hierarchy in this part of the world to start saying, maybe we do need to let these fans go in basement and environmentally controlled atmospheres, because this is a good example of how dumb this rule is. So anyway, I had to tell you, especially you guys that aren't in the lower United States, I had to tell you, boy, this is a tough project. You force a rule that makes a passive system be built through a home. So I asked, oh, what's the answer if you don't build a chase? They said, put the fan on the roof. And I'm like, well, I'm not too sure how many new homeowners I know that want a fan on the roof, but I want to know how many of you guys have ever paid an electrician to make a watertight electrical supply on top of a roof. When I've had to do that, I've done a little bit of that commercially on flat roofs. It works great, but that electrician's very expensive. They said, well, you could just abandon it and build an outdoor system instead. And I'm like, neither one of them sound like very good solutions to me. So you got three non-working solutions for a problem that shouldn't exist. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say about it.
There's an interesting thing from my perspective, since our normal thing is to put the fan in the crawl space or the basement and then vent it through the rim joist and just get the radon emissions to the outside of the house without all the extra piping and everything else. Something happened the other day that it just surprised me because I'm not used to it. But we did have a client call and say, we built this house. It has a passive system, but we got high radon in here, and we would like you to convert it to an active system. And I said, okay. So they wanted to use the existing system and not come in with our own deal. So I agreed to that. and we put in a fan, and we ended up needing to upgrade it from our usual Maverick. And anyway, I called back with him and to check with him, on it a couple days later and see how things were working with it. And he says, there's an unintended consequence. He says, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but those pipes, the builder installed this passive system, and the pipes run up through an it's through the center of the house somehow.
Sure.
And he says that fan, as quiet as it is, does create a hum, and it resonates now all through our house because of the acoustics. And I thought, oh,
Yeah.
well, there's a big reason not to put a passive system in this part of the country then.
Well, absolutely, Ron, and that's a good point. When we have convinced a lot of builders in our area, when we did finally make friends with them, that we do the entire system during construction. As a matter of fact, with a 50% failure rate in my part of the country, we just put a full system in during the skeletal stage, not even dreaming of a test, a long ways from when a test could even be created. It's like we tell them, for another $300, let's put a fan on it, and give your customer a warranty. But the point of it is, when the builders do a passive system, if you put a 3-inch pipe in a 3-inch wall, in a 4-inch wall, as they call it, a 4-inch wall is 3.5 inches, and the outside dimension of a 3.5 inch pipe is exactly the same. So every time they do it, somehow or another, they run it on a wall that's common to the master bedroom or the master bedroom bathroom. I don't know how builders can do that, but they do it every time. And as soon as even a Maverick, as soon as you put a fan on it, the drywall's touching both sides of that pipe. So it makes the wall hum. And so we get these calls from the builders saying, hey, you got to come back and do something about this. My customer says they can't sleep at night because their room is humming. And I'm like, what do you want us to do about it? You built the dang thing. So oftentimes we do have to abandon it, but we try to have meetings with the builders, whether we do their passive or not. When we do a passive, we refuse to put it in a standard wall stud area. If you look at a raw construction, we do them during the framing stage. We do them for an electrician and insulation guys have even been there. We work with the plumber and his rough end. But anyway, there's always a way through a house that doesn't include crowding it in a 2x4 wall. There's always a way, and if there's not a way, we'll find the end of a closet and we'll beg the builder, or we'll fur it out with a 2x4 flat, so that we can. But we refuse to let drywall touch a pipe. Well, that's not in any code anywhere, and I guarantee you, every builder installed passive system, and it's required in many states in the United States. Every one of them is built that way. So it's just it's a real big flaw that needs corrected, but that might be a subject for another time too. It's such a good point that oftentimes what we have to do is drop down to the dinkiest fan on earth, and sometimes on a small footprint with great communication, you'll still get the numbers. But we went back in new houses and got rid of the Maverick and went down to that fan called a Spirit. And that's one thing we've done to fix it instead of building a new system. So, well, anyway, Ben's got the topic for this hour. So what do you got to say, Ben?
Well, before we do, we've got some new people here. We haven't been on for a couple weeks, so it's good to be back. I'm still fighting through a cold. Getting a cold in the summertime is the absolute worst. But we redlined it. My wife and I drove out to New York a couple weeks ago and saw a concert out there and some Broadway shows, and drove through the night and came home sick. So that was our welcome home present. But want to make sure, one of the things that we haven't done in a while is give everybody an opportunity to ask questions if they've got it. But we also want to celebrate everybody in the group. If you've got Dave's talking about how things are kind of picking back up again. If anybody has any wins that we can celebrate, we'd love to hear from you. Things that are going well in your business, things that you've changed, things that you've adapted to, or big jobs that you've gotten, that you've landed. Would love to hear it. If anybody wants to chime in, either on Facebook, you can throw it in the chat, or here in the Zoom, let us know. Anybody? Everybody's just chugging along. It's a good thing. All right. Well,
I have the opposite. We've had a lull in ours recently, and I don't know why. I've gotten consistent phone calls throughout the year, and the last 6 weeks or so, it's gone pretty silent for radon requests, which is surprising to me.
Especially this time of year, right? This would be more coming in. Give me a call. We'll
over the 25 years we did the mitigation portion of our business, we did notice that I was really quite surprised with our July for distribution, because typically July is one of the 3 slower months, and we blame it on the fact that that's when a lot of folks are trying to get that take the kids to some kind of a Wisconsin Dells or something, so that they can do a little bit of scrambling before school starts, and people are like, I need this radon done, but man, I'm so busy this month getting the kids ready to go back to school. So we do see a slow time in July. I was very surprised that we had such a busy month in sales, and not totally sure why, Ron, but we do notice that July and February, starting, we always say January 15th to March 15th is the time you better have a game plan to build your business or catch up your bookwork or whatever. But July would be that second little era. So, personally, as much as I hate to say this, we kind of enjoyed the downtimes, but we were pretty busy. I think the last year we were right at 600 homes. And so we were pretty busy. So, we took advantage of those downtimes. We talked a little bit last week about the things we did to check in with past customers, and things we did with Ben, and things we came up with for ideas to build our business, knowing, the day you say, boy, I don't have any calls, you better be ready to get a bunch of calls tomorrow. So if you do have some downtime, Ron, look at it as a plus instead of a minus, because it's temporary.
Yeah, it's always nice when you know the lull is coming, you can plan a vacation. It's when you're on vacation that you get 100 calls and you can't handle it. But yeah.
Well, we're not in a lull at just the radon calls, because we do other things besides radon, sure. And we're actually turning work away. I'm just surprised that the radon calls kind of fell into a lull. So sure. Anyway, but no, we're fine. And I'm getting old enough where I just take my vacations anyway. It's the sink or swim for the crew,
Yeah.
You got good people working for you.
I do absolutely agree. We literally were sitting around yesterday and looked at our calendar and realized that our kids' school starts next Thursday. And we have been completely just ignoring the fact that summer is over, and now it's like scrambling for school supplies and scrambling to get, we did the registration and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, this is our last weekend. And so it does change your mindset until you get back into that, for people that are parents and everything else, you get back into that rhythm of, summer's over. So hopefully that means that people get back into a pattern of doing things normally again, and, stuff that they've put off, right? If they bought a house over the summer and they had a high radon test, but they got into the house, now it's like, okay, yeah, we really need to deal with that. And so, on the marketing and sales side, that's something to be looking at. You go, okay, how do I interact with, real estate agents and people who just bought homes, and remind them that this should be on their list of things to take care of. That they might have gotten in and had those repairs that were the obvious things. I know when we moved in, we had 2 windows that were rotten. Well, those are getting replaced. You look at that every day, but it's really easy for radon to be out of sight, out of mind. So, all right, last chance. Anybody have anything they want to throw in before we jump on to our topic here?
On what Ben just said, I always did say you can't see, hear, or smell it, and that's always been our worst enemy, other than tying it into a real estate sale. But if you could see it, or if you could hear it, or if you could smell it, just one of the 3 would make all of us very wealthy. But it is one of our 2 worst enemies is the fact that you can't see, hear, or smell it. It makes it too easy for people to ignore or go into the non-belief cycle.
Yeah, for sure. I think the smelling would be the best, right? If it smelled like natural gas.
Yeah.
They've already claimed rotten eggs, so it has to be like, it's got to smell like something else gross.
Skunk.
Skunk, yeah, that's it. So let's figure out how to change the smell of radon next week. So, all right, well, let me jump in here and take over your screens here. Hopefully, let me see. This is the right one. All right. In theory, everybody can see that. You can see multiple versions of me there on the screen. I titled this 5 Ways to Increase Your Rates. And hopefully if you're over on, I'm watching Facebook over here, and if you got questions, throw them in the chat. Facebook, throw them on the in YouTube, throw them in the chat here on Zoom as we move through this. I got going on this, and I thought I wrote it and realized that I never really numbered the ways. So there might be 5 ways, there might be 50, there might be 3, but it just sounded real catchy when I was writing the title, and didn't get around to actually putting a number on each one. So that'll be your challenge for today, is to throw a number to the ways to increase your rates, and you can submit that with your homework. So let me pop through here and let's see if I do this right. All right. So kind of like the obvious thing to start with here is like, why should we be charging more? Like, why would you need to charge more? I mean, obviously it's not, everybody wants to make more money, but like when you start to look back at it and go, okay, well, why is it that we should be charging more? Here's some reasons you might charge more per job. Maybe you are working 40 hours a week or more, and you're not making ends meet, right? You do not have enough money at the end of the week. And so if we're going to call a job 40 hours, and a lot of you work more than that, then that is something that you should really be looking at. This is an industry you've taken the time to build a business, and you're obviously you're here, whether you're watching this now live. I meant to mention, David, we just hit 800 subscribers on the YouTube channel, so we've got 800 people that are interested in radon over there. You're watching these videos, and you're going to conferences, and you're doing continuing education, but it's not enough to live on. So that should be the first and last reason. If you're not making enough money to live, but you're working a full-time job, that's a great reason. Maybe you're not meeting a profit goal that you've set. We talked weeks ago about goal setting for your business. Maybe you are not hitting that with the work that you're doing. Maybe you got great guys. You don't want to lose them, and so you want to pay them more. That's a good reason to raise your rates. Maybe your stuff's falling apart, and you're not replacing your tools or your equipment or your truck, or you're maybe you're not able to have enough equipment on hand. So maybe you're buying a fan at a time, right? And so maybe you would look at the way your business model would be and say, well, hey, if I could order 25 fans or 50 fans or get a pallet of fans at a time, David's going to get me a better deal. I'm going to save some money, and then I've always got what I need. And so we start looking at those things. You want to make sure that you're investing back into your business, and if there's not money to do that, that's not helpful. What are the reasons that the market is telling you to charge more? What are the things that maybe you are not noticing in the industry, in the market, and where you're working, and you go, okay, well, why is that? One, you book every single lead that you get. If a lead comes in, you book it. And you might say to yourself, well, yeah, I mean, I'm a great salesperson. If I sold you this mouse, which is an Apple mouse for my Apple MacBook Pro, this mouse costs about $85. If I put it on a brand new one in a box and I put it on, Amazon for $25, I'm going to sell it 1,000 times over. I will lose money, right? And so if you are priced lower than everyone else, if you are providing a larger service than a higher value than what people are paying, then you're going to book every lead. It's like just using exaggerated terms. I'm going to say, what if you would do a radon, mitigation and crawl space for $500, right? Yeah. You're going to book every single job that comes in. You're going to go out of business, but you're also going to book every lead, right? So you should be losing some jobs because they're either too far away, or your bid was too much, or the client went with someone else for a different reason. They went with the cheapest person, and they realized that they got a different experience by going with that person. So maybe your competition is charging more in your area, and they are getting that rate. So if you're charging $1,000 and everybody else is charging $2,000, and they're all staying fully booked, what is it about you that you're not charging enough, right? Why are you not getting it if you're trying to charge more? A great reason that the market is telling you is that everything has gone up in price except for your rates. So just in general, we know a gallon of milk or a gallon of gas or even a radon fan has increased in price in the last 4 years. I'm also very thankful that the price of my house has gone up by 35% in the last 4 years. So there's benefits to inflation, but it is happening, and that means that you need to not be having that same price that you were dealing with or charging 4 or 5 years ago. Maybe you have, maybe you were just getting started and that was just the price you were charging to get leads and get, stay busy. But this is kind of the wake up call to go, hey, we need to look at that business model. Speaking of business models, I've said this a million times, but I've never put it in writing. So I wanted you to really have, your come to Jesus meeting and make a decision. What is the business model for your service-based business? Are you McDonald's? Are you Chili's? Or are you a Ruth Chris Steakhouse? All three of those businesses are very successful, and they all serve beef from the same cow. And if you've been on one of our things before, you've heard me say that 1,000 times. Your experience at these three restaurants are very different. At the end of all three of these meals, you are full. One of them is going to make you sick in an hour. One of them you go out to for your anniversary, and one of them you go to because it's Tuesday night and you just want to have a decent meal, right? So all of these different business models are very, very profitable. McDonald's is going for low price, high volume. And really, I should put fans next to this, right? High volume, high suction. Just your Chili's is your Maverick, right? So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're going for a lot of, if you want to charge a higher price and do a concierge type service, and you come in and you are, cleaning up after yourself, and you are, maybe you are mopping the floor when you're done, and you want to be the Ruth Chris Steakhouse, and you've got the nice little booties that you put over your boots when you walk inside. McDonald's, the Radon McDonald's business model, you are not cleaning up after yourself. Your job is to get in and get out as fast as you, and you're going to leave a wake behind you. But you're going to get a lot of those jobs. And you probably have someone in your area, and as soon as I say that, right, that business who is the cheapest, worst radon company in your area, maybe nationwide, right? And so this is one of those things where that business model, it's successful, but it's the chances of them getting radon to the lowest possible amount is unlikely, especially if you're going into a troubled house. You own a house after 1980, that's fine, but they're gonna run the pipe through the kitchen floor. They're gonna just do whatever it takes to do it as fast and as sloppy as possible. But hey, if you want to be that company, I mean, I have a little problem with that. I don't think that's probably you if you're here and you're watching these videos and you're trying to make yourself better. But it is profitable. For me, it's hard to sleep at night providing a service like that. I say that on the radon industry. You can be an owner of McDonald's and sleep very well at night. You are providing tons of jobs. You are feeding families. That you are providing a service. It is different, I believe, in a situation where like people's actual lives are on the line. And so we're in that scenario on radon, and you have the opportunity to do a job better than someone else that really changes the outcome of a family's life. And so be the Chili's, and strive to be the Ruth Chris, be the steakhouse as well. So what's stopping you? What's keeping you from charging more? This is probably, this is something that you really need to think about. Now that we've looked at your business model, we need to look at what are the reasons that maybe you're not charging more. And the first thing we're going to look at is your public perception, right? And what people are thinking of when they see your business. Starting with your reputation. These are what other people talk about you. These are your reviews on Google. This is when people go into a Facebook group and say, hey, I need radon mitigation. Call this guy, don't call this guy. So your reputation may stop you from charging more. That's something we have to look at on what we change. Or maybe you don't have a reputation at all. Maybe you don't have a reputation where people can learn about you online. Maybe your quality of service needs to get increased. Maybe you need to look at the way the product that you produce when the service is over. So if you are only getting it down to if you've got a no-brainer home that you can go into and in theory put one suction point next to the furnace, call it a day. The house is built on pea gravel in the last 20 years or 30 years, but you can't get that house down below 4.0 or 3.9 or 3.7. You may need to spend some time here in these chats or talking to David and going, okay, what am I doing wrong? What is the thing and it might be as simple as, are you excavating 3 5-gallon buckets of dirt out from below? Because David's got the data to show that that has been really, really successful for him. So maybe a little changes the radon level when it's over. Maybe the quality of your service, you're leaving a mess. Maybe you tracked mud in. Maybe you're breaking things when you're there. That's probably under the reputation. But the quality of the service that you provide, obviously, a lot of what you're doing is cut and paste, but there are some things that you can do inside of the quality of the service. Your marketing. This is where I come in when you hire me. I'm going to look and dissect everything you're doing, all of your interactions, and especially the stuff that people see before they hire you and before they get to you. Maybe the reason you can't charge more is you are not getting the quality of lead that will pay more. So yeah, you're getting plenty of calls from the crappy realtors who want the cheapest, radon guy. But are you getting those concerned homeowners that are doing their research and looking at 3 or 4 or 5 different websites, and they are making a decision of your quality before they even talk to you on the phone? So they are doing all of that interaction prior to picking up the phone. You have lost the opportunity before it's even happened. So you are missing out on that. And so your website can suck. Your business cards look like your kid made them, or they are copied at Kinko's. You have, the emails that you send out. When we talk about your branding, right? Do you have a professional logo that looks like it was designed by a professional? Do you have is it clean? Do people understand what you do? The last 3 businesses that have come on with Service Booster, we have added the word radon into the name of the business. And so sometimes it's blah, 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 blah services or whatever. And I'm like, people do not know what you do by looking at the name of your business. You should look at what I do and know that if you own a service-based business, I am going to boost your business into a different, atmosphere, right? That is the branding, that is the logo, that is what we do, right? And so I want you to know, or at least have a pretty good idea of what I do prior to speaking with me. And so is your branding doing that? Do I know, is radon in the name of your business? Is it, is it clean? Does it make sense? Do you have to explain your logo to someone so that they understand? Is it an idea? Like, I have a friend who owns a photography business out in New Jersey, does wedding photography, and we're building a website for him, and he is running that. We did a dark version, and we did a light version, and the dark version is very sleek and very cool, but the light version is very wedding-y. And so it's one of those things where he's running it by a bunch of brides to see which one draws them in. And he's also running it by brides that he knows what their budget was for their wedding. And so he wants those high ticket brides. He wants to see that branding coming in. So I am going to hopefully mute my text messages. Those of you who are on over on Facebook, I'm sorry, you're probably hearing it ding. Let's see. So branding. What is your response time? Are you waiting a day or a week, a year to call someone back? When somebody has a question, if you have if somebody has an issue, if you people are moving at an Amazon Prime speed, and that is your goal, is to be at that speed. So that is something that slows you down. How about your attitude, right? Do you have an attitude that people should be lucky that they called you, that they should be honored to be in your presence? That there are people that that know that they're the best at what they do. That's fine, but a humility about the service that you provide, about yourself. There's a difference between hubris and confidence. Be confident but also humble, and also, just be kind, right? What else is stopping you? Let's look at the client's perception. And these are proven by the reviews that you see come in on your business. Are you friendly? Did you leave a mess in their home? Do you smell bad? I just feel like I need to pause here for a second, because the number of home service people that come in and just leave a trail behind them. Make sure your guys are showering, hopefully at night or in the morning, at least once a day. Make sure that, if you are in a particularly horrible situation, that maybe throw a change of clothes in the car. If you're doing 2 jobs in a day and and it's 8,000 degrees and you're up in an attic and dying, that is something that they will not put that on the review, but that, pun intended, clouds the entire thought process about you. And are your clothes dirty? If you are wearing branded clothes, and this is something we talked about on the branding side of thing, your guys should be wearing matching T-shirts with your logos and things that that stick out, and that either bright colors, orange or green or yellow or something that is or blue, something that's pleasing to the eye. But yeah, I mean, you guys you're in dirty places, so maybe you are taking. If the guys are not capable of using a stain stick on their clothes, maybe you're taking their shirts at the end of the day, or you're sending them out for laundry, or you are buying enough shirts that they can put a new one on every few days, because you don't want to see people coming in. Hey, if the foreman's walking in, or if you're out quoting, let's upgrade to a polo. Let's be dressed. If you're quoting, tuck your shirt in and jeans. Wear nicer shoes if you're quoting, rather than dirty boots or something like that. And throw some dog treats in your pocket for people that have dogs that you can make a friend real quick. You make a friend with a homeowner's pet, you could charge whatever you want. Especially people that don't have kids and only have pets. Those people will love you until the day that you die. Are you thankful for the opportunity to serve those people? Right. This is really important. Are you in the service? Are you saying, hey, thanks for calling us. Thanks for the opportunity to quote this out. Thank you for the opportunity to help reduce your radon. Whatever it may be, I want to make sure that you have an attitude of gratitude throughout the process, and at the very least, to just in your head and in your mind to say, this person that hired me to do this thing feeds my family. I can do the things that I want to do in my life because of this client. And when you look at the client that way, and you think about the client that way, it changes the way that you interact with them. And in having that attitude of gratitude is a way of changing the way that those people look and think about you. It's also one of those things where I think about this. Again, going to like the Chick-fil-A, I know in their training they talk about, they're like, we're not serving chicken. They're like, we're feeding a family. When people come through here, they are stressed out. They are in a hurry. They are trying to get things. They thought they have food ready to cook at home, and they decided to scrap that. They're going to throw away whatever they ordered. Maybe I'm just describing my family. And they went to Chick-fil-A that night, and they got food. And when that person hands you the food, and you say, thanks, and they say, my pleasure, you feel that they know that they're part of something that your family needs. Have that mentality when you're working for someone, when you're talking to them on the phone, and these are the little things that we're changing that allows you to charge more and to get more for the service that you provide. What else is stopping you? How about some internal business issues? Some things that you're doing that you're losing money on, like spending too much time on tasks or items or things that you could be outsourcing, right? So, we're all guilty of this. You want to answer the phone and send the email and do the quote, and you want to be in the crawl space because if I don't do it, then the people are going to screw it up, and it's micromanaging or taking over. You got to hand some of this stuff off, and maybe they don't do it as good as you do. Maybe that's something that they have to improve if you hand over the responsibilities of answering your phone or answering or sending out emails, or maybe going out and doing quotes, or maybe it's the person that's designing the system, or maybe it's the person that's on the phone, with David, picking out stuff that they need. And it's not as good as you would do it, but it allows you to go do something else, and it increases. Maybe you get more quotes out. Maybe you get more calls back. Maybe that thing, whatever that thing is, that is a way to increase the amount of money that you're making. So sometimes this is raising your rates and charging more. Sometimes it's about being efficient and making more money. It's the same thing, right? And so what about not properly training your team? If you are not getting through a job in 2 hours, it's taking you 3, but you could have done it with 2, because when you get to the house, you got 3 guys with you or 2 guys with you, and one of them knows where to start, cutting into the floor. One of them knows where to start caulking. One of them goes over and works in the sump pump, and one of them goes outside and starts building the pipe. But maybe you're walking around to each of those spots, and and then you see a guy who is, cutting on top of the, or 1 inch away from the sump pump, and that's where they're putting in their thing. And now you got a real problem, right? Because now you've got something to redo. So you got to look back and go, how can I make this faster? Because if part of when I'm looking at hiring a service, I am considering, especially a home-based service like this, as the homeowner, that it maybe doesn't work from home, I now have to think, how long are you going to inconvenience me as a homeowner? How long do I have to stay? We always joke about the cable guys coming somewhere between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., somewhere between Monday and Friday, right? And I've got to be home during that time. That's I'm either taking off a personal day, I'm disrupting my schedule, I can't go pick up my kids, I've got to have somebody else. So if you tell me that I can do, David Smith and his guys came in and did my last house, I think it was 90 minutes. There were 4 of them that came in, and that was 90 minutes, and we were filming half of it, right? I barely was able to get to each of the different things that we were doing because of how fast they were moving. That disrupted so that is a value on my time as a homeowner that he says, hey, we're going to be there. And, if you go in, especially if you're able to go quote the house ahead of time, you go, we're going to be there at 8 a.m. on the dot. We will already be in your driveway at 7:45 unloading stuff. We're going to knock on your door at 8 o'clock. And at 8 o'clock, we're going to be there. And barring something completely out of the ordinary, we are going to be done by 10:30. Right? It's going to be 9:30, but you say 10:30 just in case. And so that homeowner knows, okay, cool, I got to be home by, for 2.5 hours. That's great. The other company calls and says, I'm doing this. I'm doing it by myself. I'd like to take my time. I can really do a great job, but it's going to take me all day. And so those are 2 different decisions that the homeowner has to make. Now, if I'm marketing for either one of those services, I'm going to spin it for both of you. If I'm marketing it as the single guy doing it by himself, I will be selling it as, I don't have anybody that's going to screw it up. The buck stops with me. I'm going to make sure you can trust me. I'm going to oversee every part of this installation. I'm going to sign off on everything. I'm going to get it done super fast. And I'm going to take my time to make sure this is such an important thing. I want to make sure that it's done right. those guys that come in and do it in 90 minutes, they don't have any clue what they're doing, right? Don't disparage other people. But I would say that that's one way of spinning that. And you will find homeowners that appreciate that. That will appreciate that you are providing a service where it is really, really, you are laser focused, and it's you. However, if you have a team of guys and you could do it faster, that's a little easier to sell, because it is one of those things where people don't want to leave you alone in their home. I'm sure you do it all the time, but you are someone they just met and they don't know anything about you, and having you alone in the home, why are you? I mean, for my attic, you gotta go through my wife's walk-in closet. That is where the attic access is, right? So that is an awkward place for you guys. Have all been in some awkward places in homes, right? And so I want to make sure that you're in, you're out, and you're not messing with anything you're not supposed to be messing with. So training your team. Maybe you're slow to action. We talked about this in response time, but maybe you are slow to get that quote back. Maybe you are slow to return phone calls or emails. Maybe you're just late to the job, right? And then we're going back on reputation things. So things that we need to increase. Now here's why you're here. How do we charge more? Do this. We're coming up on the end of our time. Just charge more. I mean, just do it. Just charge more. We can call that. That's the end of the seminar. Just do it. Just charge more. No, seriously. We need to look at. This is your permission slip to charge more. If you want to raise your rates, the first thing you need to do is you need to know your numbers, right? So you need to know why you are charging more, because it's going to change the way that you sell. What is your target profit percentage on every job, on quarter by quarter, year over year? Here, expenses in or income in, expenses out. I want to make 30%. For every $100,000, as the owner of this company. And we're talking about the owner. We're not talking about your salary of working the job. We're talking about owning the job. If I owned your mitigation company and I did nothing but own it, what is the profit that I would get for owning the company? And let's say it's 30%. We are 20%, 40%, whatever that number is. That's your profit. And we've talked about profit and how to gauge that before, what's acceptable, what's good. But we want to make sure that is something that you're hitting. So you have to know, like, how many jobs do you average, right? So David's saying we did 500 jobs in the last year that he owned it. So I do 500 jobs. I'm going to take 50 weeks out of the year. I'm going to take 2 weeks completely off, because either I'm on vacation, the company closes down, so everybody can go on vacation. There's a flood in town. We can't get anywhere. The complete ice is over. Whatever it may be, something causes us to work. Whatever that number is, maybe it's 45 weeks. Maybe you want to figure that there's 45 good weeks. We're going to divide that, and so let's just take if we're doing. I don't know why I grabbed a calculator, because we're going to do 500 divided by 50 weeks. I was a C&D student, but I can do that one. So we're doing 10 jobs a week, right? So we got 10 jobs a week on average. And we say, okay, just simple math. If you were to do half the jobs, if you were to do 250 jobs and you charge twice as much, right? Twice as much. Do you make more money or less money in that scenario? In the chat, what do you think? I think you make more money, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't have the expenses, you don't have the things, you don't have the if you're paying your guys hourly, you don't have the hourly, of all that time. So what I'm looking at is if what is the cost per job? So you should know, and there's obviously, I mean, like if you're factoring in by the size of the crawl space, multiple suction points, the fan that you're going to use, the guys, but you should have a few different categories, and maybe the category is, okay, I'm going to go into that easy house that, we've got great access to everything, great communication. It's going to have a Maverick fan on it. We're going to be there for 2 hours. We normally charge $1,500 for this job, or $1,200 for this job, or $1,000 for this job, wherever you are, and I make 70% on that. That's our cost for doing the job, including your salary, whatever. So we look at that. We look at what are the fixed costs, and we say, I need to, if I'm going to do 500 jobs in a year, and I want to add $50 to each job that I'm doing, then that's 500. What is that? 500 times 50. That's an extra $25,000, right? So if I just said, hey, we're just going to add $50 to every job that we do, you're going to have $25,000 more than you did last year, right? That's a good number. Until you go, oh, well, yeah, except for the fan now costs $15 more than it did a year ago, and the Fernco has gone up by $1. David has promised that the manometer will never go up no matter what happens, no matter if he loses money. He said it. It's recorded. It's on here. It's going to be. In fact, the price is going down on manometers. So that's how he helps you guys out. By this time next year, they're going to be $250 a manometer, and you're set. But what are the fixed costs? And we start looking at that, and we figure out how we can make more per job. We just say what is that number? When you know your numbers, where are you spending money that you shouldn't be? Where are you spending money, or are you not spending money that you should be? So these are some things that you should know if we're going to raise the rates. What can factor into getting those quality leads where you are able to raise the rates? I think you should be spending a portion of your business on really quality marketing, because that's what I do, and that affects my family and how I feed them. But I do think that you should be spending 10% of your gross sales on marketing. That should be enough to cover someone like me or someone in your office that does what I do, as well as a Google Ads budget, as well as any outreach or things or flyers or pamphlets or stuff that we leave behind, all that kind of stuff, or gifts that you give to the clients or things like that. And so if you're looking at stuff that you're spending money on that you shouldn't be, or not spending money that you should be, know those numbers. Makes a difference. So we want to raise our rates. What should we do? Let's start small. This is the last thing I said. If you're not ready for a great big price increase, try this. Just increase your completed job price by $50, right? If you're doing 100 jobs in a year, you've got $5,000 more than you did last year. That is a small vacation. That is a half of a trip to Disney World with your family, or you could go spend 4 weeks with Ron in Alaska for that same amount of money. I just saw someone talking about going overseas. It's cheaper to fly to Portugal and hang out there than it is to spend like a weekend in a major city. So increase your total cost by $50, and I promise you that no one is going to see a difference in the number of jobs that you get, that you lose, that you get. You'll be the same. Would love to see you charge more than that, especially if you are feeling a pinch from increase on everything else, right? Like you should have already increased your service prices. Everyone has.
Hey,
Everything
Ben,
costs more. Yeah.
I just wonder if I could interject something. I've had to deal with a couple of things, so I've been in and out of the conversation here,
Yeah.
and I may have missed this, but I heard you a few minutes ago say just do it, and I wanted to pass on something that I learned several decades ago. Actually, I was I was living in Las Vegas at the time, and I had a restoration company, carpet cleaning, did a lot of carpet cleaning. Had a guy come, the very well known guy. His name's Barry Costa. He came to do a seminar in the local market, and it was a certification class. And that evening, several of us took him to dinner, and we were sitting around talking about it. And he had started out a very successful carpet cleaning company in New Hampshire. And I asked him, "What are you getting per square foot for carpet cleaning?" And he said 47 cents a square foot. Now this is back in 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And I was flabbergasted at what he was charging. And I said, "I could never get that around here." And he looked at me to respond, and he opened his mouth to kind of retort to my comment. And he hesitated, and he says, "You're right." Then he changed the subject matter and went on to something else. And that hit me really powerful. And that was probably the best teaching moment I ever received on this subject. And after that, I thought about it for like 2 seconds, and I raised my rates. So I really like what you said. Just do it. And it's only gotten better from there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's hard, and
I think we defeat ourselves is what we tell ourselves, it won't work. I mean, there's people that charge all kinds of different. I mean, you look at any industry, and there's a whole wide variety of pricing out there. But I think sometimes we're our own worst enemies on that.
Well, I think
yeah, go ahead, Dave.
I think this subject needs to go into next week too, because there's a few points, and we're getting to that time. But I think that we get trapped. I've said this multitudes of times, but we get trapped because we're very much in the real estate hands, and because we are, you got to be very careful. I tell all the newbies coming in, I said, be careful, because you feel like you got to do the real estate work to survive, and there's a lot of truth to that. But you can only sell a job so cheap before it's not worth it. You can sure do 5 jobs for $200 profit, a heck of a lot better than you can do 10 for $100 profit. And so you have to watch the traps you get in. And the first thing that I did with every call I got, if I sensed that there was any question about a comparison of pricing, the first thing I would say is, thank you so much for calling, but I think it's fair that I be honest with you and tell you I'm probably going to be the highest bid you're going to get, but I would love to have a chance to meet with you and explain why, because I think you would agree that I'm worth it. And that worked. I remember the one time in 25 years that didn't work, when the person allowed me to meet with them, and how shocked I was that I'm like, wait a minute, this never happens. But anyway, I think we can get into next week with a few of those details too, because Ben's right on target. And I think several of us here can add a little bit to it from personal experience.
Well, I'll tell you, back in the day, 20 years ago, I was a wedding DJ. I had a wedding DJ business, and I met with a guy, and I went to a conference, and again in the early 2000s, and he was talking about why DJs don't charge enough, and they go, listen, like, think of the last wedding reception you went to, that everybody had a great time, right? why is that, right? Whether it's a band or DJ, it's entertainment. Like, we pay for entertainment. In the Depression, people went to movies when they had no money. They always want to be entertained. And this is the one that hit me. He said, at a wedding reception, you have all the things. You've got food and the tablecloths and the napkins and the china. And he said, you got 200 people at that wedding reception. And they go to the event venue, and they sit down. They give them all their options for food, and one of the options is, during the cocktail hour, you can have a veggie tray, and the veggie tray is $7 per person. And people are like, "Oh yeah, no, that sounds good. We like to have little snacks and stuff for that." And at the time, DJs were charging about $500 or $600 for 8 hours worth of service or 5 hours worth of service. And the couple was paying $1,400 for broccoli and carrots, right? And so that was not the DJs that like, oh well, yeah, no, we're just not worth as much as the veggie tray. You guys got to think about the service that you provide, the things that you do, and knowing you were I was a wedding DJ. I play some music and make people dance for a few hours. Removing radon from someone's house is literally saving lives. And when you start to really believe that and understand that and know that and can confidently stand in front of someone and say, yes, the service that I am providing you is going to save your family's life, your dog's life. Again, that if you can convince them about the dog, you're set. But it changes the way that you stand when you are giving your price to them, when you're quoting to them, and they understand. And sometimes it takes a leader in an industry, in a location, to be that person that says, I know that we're all of us that do this are worth more than this. And we're going to, and I'm going to, a rising tide lifts all boats, right? And so we want to know that what you're doing is worthwhile. As a homeowner, I'm flabbergasted by pricing and things, but a lot of stuff I try to do it myself, and I know how much stuff costs. I have to, and that's something David and I and most of you guys that have worked with your hands your whole life. It is impossible for us to let someone do something for us, because I spent all day yesterday redoing the plumbing to my pool. If anybody knows where I can get couplers for 30-year-old 2.5-inch PVC and not have to order it, that Home Depot and Menards and Lowe's, apparently 2.5-inch Schedule 40 doesn't exist anymore.
Bradford well supply, Ben.
Thank you. That made today worthwhile. Hey guys, have a great day. Enjoy your weekend. What time do they close? So yeah, but when I like every week is going to be a story about my pool. The ropes in the cover broke. I know those ropes cost $200, and they want $1,000 to replace them, and so they are charging me $800 in labor, and they will be here for less than 2 hours. But if I didn't know how to do it myself, that's just the cost. That's just what it costs to replace that thing. And so when you just approach someone with when you are giving a bid, and this is the cost, and we're going to talk about the things you're doing as you're increasing. It's the confidence that you have when you're giving your pricing, and after you've charged that and people have paid it, then it changes your mentality to say, people are willing to pay this. This is my price now. Go ahead.
I'm worth it.
Yeah,
I'm worth
absolutely.
that amount of money.
Yep, absolutely. One of the other things you could do is increase your travel fee, or start charging one if you're not already. Please don't drive 90 minutes and not pay yourself for that windshield time and your guys' windshield time. Don't have that taken out. So that is a way that if you're not doing that, that's a way to make some more money. Increase the parts. So just you see if you itemize the things that you're doing, small increases on that, whether it's the fan, the piping, the vapor barrier, whatever you're putting down. If you itemize those items, that is a way that you can just have a small increase on that. And this is more, that's going to be more for repeat business, as in realtors. So you want to get ahead of this if you have some realtors that you work with that send you jobs over and over again, and just say, hey, listen, this is where where we're going to be. That's also a good marketing thing to say, hey, we're going to have a price increase on starting on October 1st. So anybody that you've had that has closed in a job or closed a house in the last few months, and they knew and they had a high radon test, or maybe they didn't, they waived inspections. Let's get them in and get that inspection done to see, and they can save some money by doing their job before October 1st. So that you could spin that into a marketing opportunity as well. One of the things you could do is maybe take away some of the stuff, the extras that you throw in. So are you doing extra things inside the house that you might have been putting as part of it? Extras may have been you were upgrading to a better fan, or maybe you were doing if you have a charge for PVC versus gutter material, right? So if there's if those of you who do both, or maybe this is a great photo to have on this. I know some of you guys will paint the pipe or paint the gutter material. So that's something that you could look at it two ways. You could either take that away and make that an added fee, or if you take it away, then that's something else that you're not going to spend time and money and resources on to get you to that next job. So that is a way to do that as well. I want to make sure that you're investing into your business. I want you to change your perception, change your people's, so we want to have clean, branded gear for you and your team. That's your t-shirts, that's your polos, that's your stuff you're passing out. We want to look nice. Those of you that got the cool hats and all that kind of stuff with your logos on there, those are great. And so we want to make sure that your logo, your website, your business card, all those things are what stand behind the price increase. We want to make sure that those leads are handled quickly. We're just covering the stuff we've talked about. We want to make sure that you have professional client communications. You may need someone to read your emails before you send them. You might not be able to spell. So you may need to invest in a yearly subscription to Grammarly for your email. I also, inside of this, there's a difference between Radon Guy Superstar 123 at hotmail.live.youtube.com and info at yourradoncompany.com. So there's a difference just in the way that you are communicating with clients when the email comes to them. Do you have an email signature that has your face or your logo or your hours or your website or a review from a client in there? So we want to make your communications look better, not only the way that the email looks, but also the domain that it comes from, that it looks like you didn't just start this business and go out and get a Gmail account. You at the very least registered a domain. That includes your invoicing. Do your invoices have your logos on them? Are they handwritten? Do they look like they were made in Microsoft Word, or did they come from QuickBooks, or did they come from Xero or another company that you're using for your follow-ups and your quotes and that kind of stuff? So we want to make sure that you've got great communications. Increasing your reviews is going to change the perception of the way that people think about your business prior to hiring. If you were in a foreign city and you were getting ready to go to dinner, you do not go to a place until you've checked their reviews. Period. You probably are looking to see if their bathrooms are clean, and you're looking to see if you got in quickly and what the service was like. I don't hire a plumber. I don't hire someone to mow my lawn. I don't hire somebody to work on my car without checking reviews. So if you've only got a couple and you're doing those jobs, we need to figure out how to get those reviews on there for you. And then obviously do the job right the first time. Let's not go back 3 times and put 3 more holes in their floor. Because that's going to change the way that people are talking about you, right? So being part of these things when we're talking about, all the different techniques and tips and stuff, get into, if you go and you quote out a job and it's going to be an issue, take some photos of it, come into our Facebook group, come into our weekly thing and ask some questions, call David up and figure out what you need to do so that when you are there, it is done right the first time. Makes a huge difference. Now, what that last one was, be kind. Now, it went all the way back through everything. That's a flaw in Apple's keynote. Be kind. That was the last one. All right, new prices, new you. Right? I've got new prices. I'm thinking about it differently. I am a different person when I am selling. And this is really important, and you need to know this if you are the person delivering a quote to a potential customer. Whether you raise your prices or you don't raise your prices, if you are losing jobs, it is because broke salespeople smell bad. When you talk to someone, when you are going to buy a car and that car salesman is desperate and you now know that they'll negotiate, you can walk away and that car salesman, you will feel a tug on your leg and they will have their arms wrapped around your leg and you will be dragging them back to your car. If that customers can smell blood in the water. So if you are not confident about what you are selling and the value of what you are selling, then whether we need to do hypnosis or we need to do coaching or whatever it is, we need you to be confident so that price goes through. This is what I charge. This is what I'm worth, and this is what I'm going to get paid. And when you have $0 in your bank account, it is it comes through that I need your business. I need you to work. I need you to hire me. I need to, so you got to get some money in the bank, and you got to be confident, and you got to be able to say no. You got to be able to have that client say no. And you need to be okay with that so you move on to the next lead. And that's a hard thing to do when you're broke. We want to change your sales mindset, and this is what we're talking about. Do you believe that you were worth $200, $300, $400 more per job? I talk to Radon guys all day long, all over the country, and I am always surprised when I find out what they're charging, because they are either charging way more or way less than someone that is 300 miles away. And it is not and I will tell you, if you are in a small rural area, that is difficult. But you are in a small rural area and the cost of living hopefully is a little bit lower for you. Your house, maybe your gas is the same price as everybody else, but your real estate is a little bit less expensive than somebody who's living in a major city. But when I hear someone that does a no-brainer house for $1,900, and hear somebody that does that same house in a different part of the country for $995, I know that the fan costs the same amount, right? The fan's the same amount. And your gas getting there, and your car is probably, your truck or van or trailer is the same amount, and you can't not pay your guys too much. But the fact is that other person is making twice as much as you are. So you need to believe that you're worth it. And we are here in this group. And when you go to conferences and you go to your regional conferences and you go to the national conferences, you need to talk to people, find the people who are doing what you want to do, and listen to them. And you talk to the people who are making money and do what they're doing, because don't stick with the guys who are, oh, woe is me. You need to change your mindset and go, I am hanging out with the people that are doing the thing that I want to do. So changing your sales, I want you to be transparent about your pricing. When you're talking to someone on the phone, you tell them, hey, this is my thing. This is what I charge, and here's why I charge it. I want you to explain the value of the service that you provide, but you don't need to over-explain. You don't need to tell them about why you get the special PVC and why your Fernco's are better. They don't care about that. They want to know about the service that you provide and what it means for them. Don't apologize for your price. Don't say, well, I'm sorry, it's going to be this much. No, this is the price. There's a confidence behind your pricing when you're selling it. Know your worth. Know what the service that you provide, what it does, and what people can get from it. Add more value if you can. Paint the pipe, right? What are the little things that you could do? I know we just said we take that away, but what are the things that we could do to get that, to get that value back up there, or to add things that don't cost more? And this is the little things you're going to sweep up behind yourself. You're going to take care of things. You brought the treats for the dog. Improve your sales pitch. We've talked about that. That may be coaching. That may be getting on the phone with me or David or somebody that can help you and say, hey, I want you to give me your pitch. I want you to treat me like a new customer, and I'm gonna dissect what that is and what I feel like you're doing wrong. Focus on the outcome, not the job. What are we doing? We're saving people from lung cancer. The end, right? And the difference between getting it down to 3.9 to a virtually undetectable matters as well. Because I don't want just 3.9 if my kids are sleeping in the basement. I want it down to undetectable. I want it to be something where I am confident that I have the right fan, that I'm taken care of, that I'm not going to have to call you in 6 months because something's wrong. It's rattling. It's fallen off. I want to go through all those things. Sell what makes you unique. What are the things that you do that nobody else does? That is something that you can explain in your value and the things that you're pitching to them. And again, these small changes, whether it be adding $50 or $100 to every job, if you're doing 100 jobs or 200 jobs or 400 jobs or 1,000 jobs, it equals a big result, right? So what could an increase mean for you? I said, a small vacation. Maybe it means that you have another week off. Maybe it means you could pay your guys more. Maybe it means that you can drive a nicer truck. Maybe it means that you could take the next step in your business and you can get another crew going and you can really start to see real income coming in. So make a list. What do you need to make this happen? What are the things that you need to do? What are the things that you need to change? What is your plan to add more to every job? And make a timeline. So by this time in October, I'm going to charge this much more. But I'm going to go $50 more in October, and then January 1st or February 1st or 3 or 4 months from now or 6 months from now, my goal is to make $200 more. Maybe they're incremental changes. One thing I did not talk about that I want to say is I heard Dave Ramsey talk about this with his rental properties. He raises the rate on his rental properties every single year, no matter what. Every year he raises it by, even if it's $25 a month on the people who rent his properties, because the last thing he wants is to wait for 10 years and then inflation, gas costs more, everything costs more, and now all of a sudden he's got to raise it up $500 more a month, and the renter goes, "Oh my goodness, I can't handle that." But if you raise a little bit incrementally, it's the frog in hot water. You also get the benefit of those incremental changes. So we as a society worldwide, everything now costs a little bit more than it did 4 years ago, and a lot of people made this big jump because you had to, but if you are now thinking about this, I'm going to be in business 10 years from now, and this job is probably this $1,500 job is probably going to be $2,500 10 years from now, or $2,000. Okay, I need to incrementally raise my rates by $50 every year for the next 10 years. And that's going to take me from $1,500 to $2,000. And then adjust if necessary, but make that an incremental change, but have a timeline for those changes. So you can actually go back and say, at this time I was here, now I'm in here, I'm seeing the fruits of that. And every time I give a seminar, I like to have awkward silence time that you guys can chime in and give me your opinions, thoughts, and comments. And I always like to grab a photo from the Awkward Family Photos website so that you can see just something that just really stirs up just weird and random feelings for you. So any thoughts or things that are on your mind about this? I know Ron jumped in a little bit. We're at 90 minutes now. It's probably time to wrap it up, but I'll take any questions or thoughts or ideas or things. Arguments. Tell me I'm wrong. Stoke my ego. Tell me I'm right. I'm fine. Whatever. It's Friday. We're ready to go home. So, Ron, you got something?
I was just gonna say, no, it's spot on. We got to be in that mindset.
That's 90% of it. It really is for a lot of us. It's convincing that ourself that we're worth more. I have no idea what my competition charges for the same service that I provide, or similar service, or whatever. I have no idea. I sat down and I wrote my business model, and I looked at the time that I invest on my clients each month and the way that I can bring people on, and I know how I can make money, and I know that for every time I bring somebody on, it costs me this much, and that's how I set my prices. So it's very easy for me to come into a sales pitch with someone and say, this is what I charge. And they go, oh, you're, I don't, no one has said, oh, you're way more, way less, or you're about the same as anybody else. And that is, there's a peace in knowing that I'm doing something that I know what the value is, and I know what the result is for the people that I work with. So, that is where you've got to set that mindset where you know what you're doing, and you know that it's worthwhile, and you know that you're changing lives. And when you come in and you hit all those things in your brain, you're taking orders and you're not selling stuff. And that's a big thing we talk about in here is how does that perception change of you, whether it's through your marketing or through your service or through your reviews, that people just call you and say, we're just hiring you. It doesn't really matter. Just send us a bill for it. My wife had a client of hers, a house that's selling, high radon. She told them over and over again, they've lived there for 20 years. They've never had a radon test. Now they're moving, radon level 6. And my wife last night said to me, who else do you recommend for radon in other than David Smith's company? And I'm like, I don't. There are a couple other people here locally, but it's hard. Like, no, I know the value of what they do. I know how they do it. I know what they do. And so now I'm helping make that sale because that's what's going to be presented to, her client. Now her client may get online and check other people's reviews and call them as well. But it is one of those things where you go, that's the perception. And so when Dan gets that phone call, here's what we do and how we do it. And so that's the goal. So we don't have anything else, guys. Thank you so much. And we will see you again next week. Lord willing and the creeks don't rise, we'll be here. And it does seem like it'll be the first day of school for my kids, or second day of school, I should say. So you may see me. There'll be champagne. There'll be glitter and things and celebration. Our kids are no longer home for the summer. We have sent them back to their other parents, the school. So we'll be very excited by this time next week. So, guys, thank you so much. We will see you next week. All right, bye.